We gather today to farewell Dietmar. With words of love, simple ceremony and kind reflection, we will honour Dietmar in great regard. It is a privilege and an honour for me to lead the service today. For those people viewing via our live stream service and also for our gathering here today at the cemetery. If I may take this opportunity to remind everyone that if you do have a mobile phone, please ensure it is switched off or please placed in a silent mode. I'm going now to ask Walter to come forward and present the eulogy.
Awkward wearing a mask and having glasses, so can't do the two together. Anyway, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today. In chapter 3 of God's Word in the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, it reminds us all that there is a season for everything under heaven. A season for things such as to be born and to die. Or if you like, to say hello and a time to say goodbye. Just as it is for us today, it is our time to say our last earthly farewell to Dietmar Joseph Unterlechner. Now, I know that Dietmar was known to most of us here today by many names and titles, such as Dad and Opa, Uncle, or in this case, Dietmar. However, as I knew him as Dietmar, I will refer to him as Dietmar. Whatever everybody else says, that's fine. I will call him Dietmar. Dietmar was born in 1938 at the start of the Second World War in Innsbruck, Austria, to Helinde and Franz, an engineer. He was the oldest of 8 siblings: Germa, Kurt, Werner, Klaus, Francie, Heinz, George, and Helmut. At this point I might apologise that my Austrian pronunciations are not all that crash hot. If you ask my Dutch wife, she'll say my pronunciation of her birth name is not that crash hot either. So even though Carl has kindly given me some translations, any mistakes I make, my apologies. Unintended. Now, growing up poor, as many did during this time, he was very close with his mother as the oldest son, and when his father passed from a heart attack after the war, Dietmar assumed responsibility for his younger brothers and sisters. He recalled having to swap a gold watch for a bowl of potato peels to make soup as a child. And much later, his brother Kurt would honour him with a similar gold watch to mark his 50th birthday. He was very close with his only aunt, Dagmar, and was an active teenager, skiing in competitions, playing tennis, and hiking the snow-capped Alps of the Austrian highlands he would eventually leave behind. Dietmar was always inquisitive. He wanted to see the world and told stories of travelling Europe and masquerading as a cook in a high-end ski resort until the maitre d' caught on. But rather than firing him, saw his potential and taught him to cook and wait tables. Dietmar completed his national service in the army and his fitting and turning apprenticeship, and then at the age of 21 set sail for Australia. Landing in Australia opened up a world of opportunities. While Dietmar had little money in his pocket and couldn't speak the language, he frequented pubs, meeting people, and learnt the rules of AFL football in order to gain work and contacts. With an engineering background, Dietmar was employed by many different companies fixing machines that produced wine, cheese and chocolate. And later he worked for Alfa Laval while living in St Kilda, which would be his longest serving position. His brother Kurt, the only other family member to travel to Australia, was his closest relative, and after starting his own electrical business, inspired Dietmar to do the same. Now, while Australia has become home, Dietmar went home to Austria as often as he could to see his family. But in 1979 he married Joyce, who he met at the Old England Hotel. There's a story there which I won't go into, but if you want to hear about it, talk to Joyce. Anyhow, they met at the Old England Hotel. With some liquid courage, one night he got down on his knee, one knee to propose and filled her shoe with champagne to convince her that he was serious. She happily said yes, and they were married in Joy's brother Alan's backyard. Joy quickly became pregnant with Carl, born in 1981. Mandel, Dad's nickname for Carl, means little man in Austrian. And Melanie, born in 1983. Now, you might have to help me out here. Marcelette, Dad's nickname for Melanie, which means little mouse. Joy and Dieter's responsibilities were split from this point, with Dieter working long hours while Joy supported the business administration and looked after the children full time. Dieter's business started growing, and with that came an opportunity to expand. Contracting with Pacific Carpets and later Shaw Industries, Dieter would build an extremely successful engineering company employing many people who were not only staff, but in many cases, close friends. Long days of work became nights at home where drinks, stories were shared by Dieter with his family and friends such as Leo, Scooby, Finny, Harry, Tony and others. Their young children would be delighted with a house full of people and revel in late nights, seeing both parents in good spirits dancing together in the kitchen. Dieter was logical and ingenious, always persevering to find a solution to a problem. His intelligence was demonstrated through his passion for knowledge. Knowledge of the universe, history, science, finance and politics were among his favourite subjects, and he would read books and watch television with the kids to encourage their interest also. He told stories to his children to inspire them to be diligent and not to be precious about getting their hands dirty. One story revolved around how most people would be turned off by moving manure from one side of the road to the other, whereas he would say, shovel shit wherever you need to go. With this work ethic, he was determined to retire early and provide for his children a lifestyle he never had. Carl and Melanie have many fond memories of their father while growing up. Dieter brought a caravan in Porpunka at the base of Mount Buffalo, which he said was the one place in Victoria that reminded him of Austria. He would take the children berry picking, on water slides, dodgem cars, roller skating, and even floating down the river while they shared their holidays whenever he could get away. Over the years, many trips were made to the caravan for Dieter to build and fix things, meaning his Australian family were able... Sorry, I jumped ahead there, didn't I? Meaning there was a regular weekend where the family could travel for a short break. The family were able to return to Austria in 1988 to celebrate his brother Helmut's wedding, and his Australian family were able to see the beautiful land that Dieter had previously called home. Over 7 weeks they travelled, meeting family and friends, leaving his children with fond memories of the mountains, gorges, Kaiser Mountain, Boom Boom ice creams, I didn't swear, Boom Boom ice creams, and Bardell, the hillside pub overlooking the town of Wargie, where he grew up. Dieter instilled Catholic values to his family, sending both children to private schools and celebrating Christmas and Easter with passion. At Easter he would sit up at night dyeing eggs as he did when he was a boy, or in Christmas spending hours working on the tree with each individual strand of the tinsel, candles, walnuts or biscuits needing to be in just the right spot. While Father's Day was American crap, here say most of us, as he called it, Mother's Day was always to be celebrated, and he would wake up early and prepare breakfast in bed for Joy with salmon and caviar and shower her with flowers and chocolates. Carl and Melanie recall their father saying he missed his mum and was making up for it with theirs. He would always call his mum for her birthday, Mother's Day and Christmas, and regularly had long chats in German with his relatives. While Dieter was always working long hours, he worked hard to be a part of his family life. Each morning he would deliberately forget to take his lunch so that Melanie could run out to the car to give it to him. Carl would spend time in his teenage years working with Dad over summer at the factory. The kids would learn to play pool with his colleagues at the pub, and whether it was having neighbours around the fire for a drink and blasting pa music, or welcoming family, friends and entertainers from Europe when visiting Australia, Dieter was always hospitable to travellers. Over the long years of a close loving marriage, as Joy recalls it, as many others would, having its ups and downs, that with the two children the rest of the world just went by quietly and quickly. Dieter was the out front man while Joy stayed at home looking after the children and got on with the job. Some people may have said they weren't a match for each other, but Joy says their marriage just worked. It was strong enough to hold as Dieter battled through a number of health challenges, shattering his hand in a forklift accident at work, contracting pleurisy and having a quadruple bypass, none of which was able to stop him. As his children grew up, Dieter has passed on his cooking knowledge and passion to Melanie and supported her as she studied to be a chef. They would bond over cooking, with Dieter being exceptionally good at making classic Austrian dishes and teaching Melanie to make authentic dumplings. While studying in Germany, Karl travelled to meet his father in Austria and spent time skiing, remembering stopping halfway down the mountain and looking wistfully at the Austrian Alps, noting that this would be his last trip down the mountain. Karl recalls his father being a source of inspiration as he went and started his own business and travelled to America. Now, as there is a time to sow, there is a time to reap, and Dieter achieved his goal and retired early, buying his much-loved V12 Jaguar. As the children got older and left home, Dieter was able to spend more time with Joy as they travelled twice to Europe, visiting London and Austria, and cruising down the Danube from Passau to Budapest. When home in Australia, Dieter was closest with his brother Kurt and his wife Anya, and with daughters Myra and Simone, and family gatherings would see big barbecues in backyards in Brighton with plenty of laughs, stories and drinks celebrating the years bygone. In his latter years, though, after Dieter was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, Melanie gave him one of his greatest pleasures in life as he became au pair to two grandchildren, Dante in 2015 and Matteo in 2018. The boys would give him exceptional joy, lighting him up whenever they were around. His mandolin. Karl was able to connect with him when he returned to Australia, and Joy would be his rock and cared for him during those last years before the battle required further support, with the nurses of Trinity Manor helping to manage his passing. So now, as we gather here today to remember Dieter by whatever name you knew him by, brother, husband, father, uncle or friend, while today is a time to grieve, the future will hold many times to feel joy as we remember the time spent together, the influences he had on our lives and the love that we all shared. Rest in peace.
Thank you, Walter. Before we commence our final blessings and tribute, I would just maybe we will observe a few moments of silence in remembrance of Dietmar. Observing this silence, you may reflect on your memories of him and how he's touched you in your lives. Now is just a minute in time, yet we dedicate it to every single precious memory associated with Dietmar. He will always be remembered in our hearts, here and now, in sorrow but without fear. In love and with great respectful appreciation, we hereby shortly, with the utmost care, commit the body of Dietmar to his place of rest. We release his spirit in the arms of the keeper. And to close in verse, allow me to quote a final poem entitled, "We Will Remember." You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see all he's left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live in yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he's gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind and be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he'd want: smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. Dietmar, we thank you for your life. We vow to honour your legacy and remember you always as you take your rest. Rest in peace. Family and friends, may peace be with you always.